Well, I'm going to start by pulling out the battery, because I know I'm going to need some access back here. I should finish getting this negative off before I touch the positive. Keep from drawing an arc if I make this one off. Let's get the intake off. Intake the air cleaner. Pop off these fasteners. My memory is that we pull it part way and we get a little bit of slack. And then I can lift the latch and push it off. There we go. Now, something that I do as a matter of extra care, these are your air filters, you know, and that's the dirty side, this is the clean side. And so whenever I get the intake off, I take these guys out and I store them this way, dirty side up. Because if you leave them sit out here and they get full of grit and grime, when you start pulling air through, that's the clean side, and you don't want anything coming off of that side and going into your engine. So, like I say, I find a spot on the bench and I flip them over this way. It's interesting because my factory shop manual does not have a section in it on how to remove this. So I'm going to go at this a little bit on my own, and I'm going to expect that this section needs to come off below the filter. Looks like 7 millimeters. With penetrating oil, either from the top or the bottom last night. And as my normal practice, I'm going to carefully label all these so they go back in the same spot. Alright, so that moves that. And then these little guys should come out. Yeah, there we go. Gotta find the gap in them. Pull the pin, lift those out. Wasn't sure if I was going to need a putty knife or if the screwdriver would get it. It all depends on the individual design of these guys. There it goes. My goal is to get these out without tearing them up. But if you haven't done one of these before, it's one of these plastic pins with a pin that goes down the center and expands it and locks it in place. So you pull the center pin out and away you go. You get down to actually doing the job and you go, oh wait, where did that fastener come from? Where does it belong? It's a whole lot easier if you just write it down. Okay, and there comes the air cleaner assembly. I want to be able to get down to some of these screws inside. It's got Christmas tree fasteners down inside, but if I can just flex this back, I can get to the bolts I need to release the headlight part of the bracket. That's that's where I was looking. And there are a couple more of those plastic pins here if I needed to move that further. I think the way this has to come off is that the headlight bar, this reinforcing bar, has to come with it. So we'll keep that hooked together, because when the fascia, when you get to the outside, it looks like it's wrapped in behind. So we'll start that way, and I can always pull them back out easily. I mean, ultimately for painting, I'm going to need to have them separated, but I don't think I can separate them right away. Also, there's a couple more bolts here that probably ought to have some penetrating oil on them before I get to them. They look a little rusty. They're not horrible, but they're a little rusty. I probably need to go down below and start taking things off underneath, and then come back up here. So, all right, well, from underneath here, I want to take this lower panel loose, so I need to start going around, and there are two screws right there, two nuts I should say, and then there's a strip with a couple of nuts from the top. That's it's a metal strip right in here, and those two bolts are nuts there. And then as you come around, we got two of them here, and then those actually continue around all the way across the front. There's another batch of those. So I'm going to start at this end and see what it takes to make these move. I've treated them all with penetrating oil, and I guess we'll see whether they're successful or not. Whether that was successful or not. Man, sometimes it's hard to keep up with where you set your tools. All right, well, I guess I need a 10mm deep for those. I thought a shallow might have enough bite, but it doesn't. Well, there's one. Yeah, that one seems to be a little tighter. I'm gonna have to spray that one again and let it sit. That one doesn't want to move yet. I could probably crank on it a little harder, but I'll give it a second try. Got these up here. That can moves pretty easily. Let's see if we can get the other one next to it. That's not too bad. Okay, well, that gets those, and then there are a couple more up on top here. There's another metal there's another metal strip right across here, and there are nuts up on top, I believe. Yep, there they are. Maybe just one nut on top. And yeah, there's one there, and then the two in the back. And then, as I said, as you go across the front up here, there must be a dozen of them or so going across. So we got those. I need to get all of those, and then on the opposite side, another set of fasteners, and then we'll see if we can get this separated and get this piece, I'm going to get this lower piece separated from the fascia, basically. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to turn the camera off for the time being, and just work my way across and pull all those bolts out. Well, I've got most of the fasteners out. There were like 14 of those bolts with a 10mm head around. And one unfortunate thing, disappointed me because I was being so careful, is on these steel straps, this one on the end broke off. I had treated it and thought it was good. It was the one that's kind of up behind here where you can't see. And it seemed like it was doing good. I got several turns on it, and then it must have stuck and broke that guy off. So I'll have to figure out how to fix that one. There's only a little bit of bolt left, so I'll probably have to drill it out and use some other kind of bolt. I was doing a little looking while I was taking this break and taking a break, and it looks like there is a reproduction available for it, but if it's just the bolt and I've got the rest of the strap, I probably don't need a whole reproduction. It would just be nice to, I would like to repair it in such a way that it doesn't look like it's a kludge, so to speak. A good fix. But that's where that is right now. And so then I'm going to back up here to the corner. There are a couple of 10mm vertical ones up here. Oop, there we go. There's one, and these are on the front corners. I think that if I pull those, this lower piece of the trim should come loose. Then I still have the main part of the fascia. I think I could take the whole assembly off together, but since ultimately it needs to come apart anyway, I really wasn't worried about that too much. So let me see here if I can get that bolt out of there. Okay, well, that side's coming down. Alright, so that piece is down on the ground. That's the lower section. This is my section that I need to repair. And now that I got that, I need to get up inside, and there are at least 3 bolts in here that need to come loose. So I'm going to start by going at those on each side, and we'll work and see what else is holding us up. So in this next step, as I think I just said, I need to be able to get the bolts that are down this side by the split line here. There's one up here and here and here. There's several of them. And on the opposite side by the battery, you need to lift the battery out, and then you can reach underneath. On this side, on this car, the horns were in the way, so I've pulled out both the horns. It's not that hard. You don't even have to disconnect them. Just unbolt them so that the hole is open. Some of them I could reach probably from the bottom, but I really didn't think I could get all the way to the top to this corner. So now that I got those open, I'm going to go reach in and try to get those bolts out. So I got the behind the headlights bolts, and I got a light down in. Let's see if I can get a good look in there. So you can see down here that you can see those 3 bolts sticking out, and then there's one right up here underneath the edge. There's 4 of them, and I got all of them from the top. The advice would be, I'm using 1/4 inch ratchet. You need to use a deep socket because the threads are too long for the shallow, for the regular one. I broke them loose with the 1/4 inch ratchet in the deep, and then used this screwdriver with the universal joint and the deep socket on the end to get them the rest of the way out, because it's tight quarters for swinging a ratchet. You can get them that way, but it was sure a whole lot quicker this way. But now I have all 8 of those loose, and now I need to move on to the next ones. Well, I guess I should add that now that I'm down on the bottom, that there were 4 bolts down the side, and there's actually a 5th one down here at the very bottom. So you come down the seam from up here, there's one in the way top, there's one in the way bottom, and there's 3 in between. It's a total of 5. So I need to pull that guy out yet. There's a number of these plastic pins here, and as you go across the bottom, let me get some better light here. As you go across the bottom, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those that I need to pull. Then you see there's at this big plastic piece here, which I think is part of the bumper shock absorbing system, and it looks like it's got a bolt down the center, and there's one there, and there's one on the opposite side. But I think those have to come out, or you can't get to the plastic pin. You know, it's hidden in underneath. I'm going to go attack those next. Yeah, back when I was pulling the engine, I pulled the engine from the side so that I wouldn't have to take this fascia off. And I had a viewer suggest that it really wasn't that hard, and I could have it off of there in about 20 minutes. With all due respect, that gentleman's better than I am, because I've been at this for several hours and I'm not done yet. And perhaps if you've done it a few times and all the bolts are greased and you know exactly what you're doing, but man, there's a lot of stuff here to do it in 20 minutes. So anyway, I'll keep plugging away. Now let me see if I can get this out of the way so I can. Oh, that's not too tight. That's not bad. It's a 13 millimeter on that one. It doesn't seem like it's coming. Oh, there's a nut on the top side. Okay. I thought this one maybe went right into steel, but there's a nut on top. Get a nut on top and a through bolt on the bottom. Well, may need to have a 13 millimeter end wrench, but we'll see if it'll come off first. It is nice that this car doesn't have the typical rust of a car this age for Michigan. Let's double check, is that a 13 also? Yes, it is. All right. So then we got some of these guys to pull out. I usually try to get them with a screwdriver and get underneath the tab and lift. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Give them a lift from both sides. I mean, I prefer not to break things if I don't have to. And it makes them harder to get out if you can't. Once you get them started, you can sometimes, with a good big screwdriver, you can get underneath. And then other times, you kind of need to take a needle nose and get underneath. And then use it like a... I'm not pulling on it, I'm just using it as a pry tool. There we go. Sometimes you can clamp on these things and pull them with the needle nose, but a lot of times that just kind of chews them up. If you can get underneath and get them to pull, then you're usually better off. There we go. Now I'm going to go pull the rest of these. Well, the way this is put together, the fascia is mounted to this molded plastic beam that seems to hold the headlights in, and it's sandwiched between the steel and the headlight frame. So it looks like I need to take the headlight, I'm going to say this whole beam out and then separate it. That's where I'm heading for the moment. So it appears that the attachment is right here. Okay, that frees that up. But it is, so alright. Be careful, I don't want to break this piece of plastic. It's free to flex. Sneak that out of there. And this side's a little bit easier. I'll get a better look at it. See? So if you go down inside there, you see the different bolts, and the headlight beam is being held in by this one and the one at the bottom. The ones in the middle just kind of hold the bracket together. They almost look like they should be holding, something else, but this bracket is made in, it looks like made in 2 layers or 2 pieces. That's, I think probably for manufacturing reasons, they made a 2-piece bracket. Okay, get that one. Okay, and then there's the top one here. That gets that. Okay, things are getting looser. Still not out, but you can see that this side has started to move. Get the connectors off the headlights. That seems to be going okay. That seems to be moving. There's still more. Parking and turn signals need to get disconnected. These sockets have a latch to depress, and then you turn them counterclockwise to unlock them, and then they pop out. The fog lights will stay behind. And I have a cardboard laid out over here to the side so that when I get it off, I have some place to go with it. There we go. So that's what the front end looks like with the fascia off. You have all these energy absorbing pieces for what would be the 5-mile-an-hour bumper that was regulated. And these are the brackets that remain. I think I did the right thing by pulling them off that way. So the only negative side was the fact that I broke off one of the bolts on one of those strips, and I'll have to devise a repair. Maybe as simple as drilling it out and putting in a hex head bolt, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't mind having something just a little more elegant than that, but let's see what we got. So there's the flexible piece, and now see the way that went together. You have to take, this wraps around the headlight bar, so you had to take this whole thing off in order to get it free. Now, aha, there we go. See, I wanted to figure out how to get the headlight bar off so that I can work on this piece. And you can see what they've got is these sheet metal nuts. Try to get the light in the right place. Sheet metal retainers. The what do you call? I think they're Tinnerman nuts that keep just keep the thing together for assembly purposes. So you got two of those on each side. That keeps it from coming apart when you're trying to reassemble it. So I need to get those off. Then I can move that piece. And I've got just two screws there. And then the parking lights need to come out. There we go. So right back there, that's the piece that I need to make a repair on. Yeah, let's see if we can finish separating this. Should be real close. And a couple of 7mm here that I had still holding things together. Okay, so I got those out of the way. Yeah, so they took off 4 of these little sheet metal nuts. And basically what you got to do if you haven't used one of these before is they're one way. They won't come back off. You push them on and they lock. So you got to kind of grab them with needle nose pliers and turn them, unthread them. It's a little tedious, which is why I turned off the recorder for that time. It wasn't really exciting watching that go. Underneath here, a couple more 7mm. Two. I need to get the tab off like so. There we go. That's it. So the bar and the fascia cover are separate. I ought to be able to go to work on it. I got a few fasteners to take out the parking lights, center section, the surrounds for the fog lights, and that looks like it's got some Torx head jobs in there. All came apart pretty smoothly. You just have to kind of go slowly to get everything taken care of. Alright, well, back later.